And welcome to Hey, welcome to NFT Intel. Always fun to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Come at you every week. We moved it back from Monday to Tuesday this week. We had a Utes tube mint we wanted to get through before we came at you. I'm here with my co-hosts, Paul C. and Sol Dozer from the Sol Army. Today we're going to just kind of do this recap here on the Utes tube mints. We got Crowdsurf, which is minting on the 12th. We got Sports Club, which I believe is minting on the 9th. No, Crowdsurf is on the 9th. Sports Club is minting early September, and we were gonna just chat about Solswipe and then the overall ecosystem. So, Paul, Sol Dozer, how you guys doing? Thanks for being here.
Great, Kris.
Good, Kris. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is it's been a pretty exciting week with leading up to the Utes mint. We've talked about Utes for the last 2 weeks, and this week they were supposed to mint on Friday. It didn't happen. They were going to mint on Sunday. Also, didn't happen. And then finally, they ended up minting the tubes last night. So let's take a rundown and see what happened. Just to get your guys' perspective on it. Paul, what was your take on the whole process?
Well, in terms of the process, they did say most likely, credit where credit's due. So they minted on time in that regard. I definitely think they did like a very cool job of like getting their mint site up and everything going like that. Like it was quite theatric when you were actually minting the tube itself. Part of me wonders if like the video and animations and everything like that were some of the reasons why the mint itself took a super long time. I know I saw quite a few people saying they had a lot of difficulty getting their transaction through. But overall, like I think the experience was really cool, and the way they had their site set up, it was pretty awesome. I guess my only critique that I would probably share with a lot of people is it would have been nice to have a little bit more heads up and like a definitive date of when everything was ready to be shipped and rolled out. But I mean, all things considered, they did say most likely, and it followed that. So overall, not too bad of a mint experience, and I mean, they sure came out of the gates pretty hot, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. There was a lot of. It seemed like their infra might have not been. It could have been the videos, who knows, or something on the side. I mean, and of course, I could just imagine their team sitting there while things are breaking, trying to put out fires when there's 9 to 10,000 people tagging them in discords and on Twitter saying it's the worst mint they've ever had. What was your
Yeah.
what was your take, Dozer?
Honestly, I don't think it could have gone any better. If the only issue was that they had to delay one day for, whatever the real reason was, they just delayed for a day, and then for the most part, the mint's gone pretty seamless. I think maybe at the start there were some people who were having trouble minting, but I think everyone at this point who has wanted to has been able to. The price, the post mint price is above my expectations of where it would have been at this point. And I mean, I think I saw some people. The only issue that there was some people who had whitelist, and then at the last minute, for some reason, it was revoked, and some people were kind of flooding the project because of that. I think that in like all of those cases, those people who had that revoked, it was found out that they were just DeGods holders and they were kind of double whitelisted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Other than that, it went really well. Congrats to that team. I mean, this is going to be a hype project for the foreseeable future for sure.
Yeah, I know that we said last week that this may be the mint that lifts all ships. We've seen quite a bit of we've seen quite a bit of other projects right now, like just taking off. ABC's took off today. Sol price last I checked was 45 Sol. Blocksmith Labs is on its way to hitting a new all-time high. Gecko's pumped the other day. And I think your call, Paul, that when you said that last week about, this is going to be the tide that lifts everything up, because Sol's actually not doing, I mean, Sol's doing what it's doing compared to the rest of the crypto market, but the NFT market seems to be really hot now for these collections with good teams that are really building on them.
Yeah, for sure. Like the Sol price has kind of stayed more or less in this little range where it's been for the past little while here, but we've certainly seen some floors and some projects go absolutely ballistic. I mean, I know Liberty Square has seen some incredible
Mm.
volume. That one minted a while ago, and I think we chatted about it a few weeks ago. ABCs went nuts, and there's quite a few others that have just put through an incredible amount of volume lately, as well as it almost seems like almost any reasonably good collection has seen a pretty good surge in their floor price. So um, whether that's correlated directly to Utes or other factors, pretty nice to see if you're an NFT collector and holder in that regard.
Yeah, it's kind of my opinion or my take on it is that it's all the degen projects that aren't really worth a whole lot. All of the money's flowing out of those, and it's just going back into the quality projects, and those ones are there to stay. You know, it makes sense that a lot of money is going into Utes because they're building an actual tool that'll be beneficial. So the money's flowing out of those projects that are, not really doing anything more than maybe at most having like cool art, but not really developing anything, flowing out of those and into sort of the developing projects.
I think there's certainly a lot of projects as well that do just um, have a lot of speculation value that are doing quite well as well. But yeah, I definitely agree with you with that kind of flow. Like we are seeing a lot of these older projects that have been around for a month or 2 months get a resurgence in their value.
Yeah, I agree. Let's
Yeah,
take a
that's a lot of speculation projects like ABC.
okay.
Just
Let's
look at the
take a
24 hours.
let's take a look at at Hello Moon really quick to just like kind of give an illustration of that, right? So we can see here that Utes actually is top in the it's not top in the market cap, but it is top on the daily volume. 145 floor price, average price 134, but they've done $204,000 worth of volume in one day, which is amazing. And they flipped DeGods this morning. It looks like ABC. Talk about speculative. On their Magic Eden page, it doesn't even say they have a Discord or a website up. So I can't really wrap my head around that one. Can't even talk about it because I don't know hardly
I
anything
can't
about it.
take that one.
Yeah, we wish she had some alpha and some intel on that, but we don't. Anyways, Utes, what's next? What's next for the tube? So we didn't like the community didn't mint the actual Ute. They minted an unrevealed what they call tube, which are beautiful. I actually had a recording of it, and I didn't get it set up here to show everybody what it was. You
Yeah,
can
so
see it on the YouTube thumbnail.
the tube mint that'll end here in the next day or so. I think it'll go to whitelist, and then there's a small raffle that they'll give out to some remaining tubes out to some people that won raffles for it. And then I believe I don't know if they set a date for it yet, but not too long after they will allow you to turn that tube into a Ute, and then we'll find out the long term value of a holder and get a better picture. And then next step is get a better picture of what the website and their tool will become.
Yeah, it's all a little bit
Yeah, it'll be.
up in the air. Go
Oh,
ahead, Paul.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's gonna be pretty interesting because you can. It adds like an element of game theory because you can either hold your tube as a tube for good,
Hmm.
or you can transfer your tube or burn your tube into a Ute. And one of the other big projects that kind of had that sort of dynamic or that sort of game theory in the past is that like artifact clone X on Ethereum with the vials, I believe they're called. So I'm pretty interested to see what the price action is, not only on the tubes, like we've seen some pretty crazy action on the tubes, but the Utes and the tubes when you're able to burn your tube for a Ute. I think we're going to see some pretty interesting stuff there too.
That's right. I forgot about that. That's on their Magic Eden page. They have a little blurb about that. It says, "Are you going to keep the tube or get the Ute?" So, yeah, it's kind of cool. I like that.
I mean, it's throwing a lot of interesting new metas. I mean, with this whole scholarship, the whitelist meta is changing a little bit. Of course, they weren't the first ones to do that, but there was like 70,000 scholarship applications that they had to go through for about 5,000 spots. There was a lot of talk in a lot of servers that they were probably over their heads. Anybody who's had to review applications before, I mean, they were short, they were like 900 words, but it's really hard to um, quantify or actually qualify a lot of these things. I know a lot of people were disappointed that they didn't get the Ute list. Those feelings will go away though. Those, understood. Um, those those feelings will go away though. I mean, because this ecosystem, what I keep telling everybody is that, man, we're so early. There will be more opportunities. The Dust Labs announcements that Frank made right after, or actually right before the mint, I think, is that they raised a $7 million seed round for Dust Labs. They're building, right? And they have money behind it that's not coming from, the pockets of people like us, right, who are just are paying royalties. They've got some runway now to actually build and develop good things, and they're pretty creative. So while I don't think like they're the top, DeGods, Dust Labs, they're the top project in the whole Solana ecosystem. People have been talking about that they might actually take over, BAYC eventually if Solana, becomes the next ETH. Um, but what we're seeing is that they're gonna keep building, and so it's probably a solid bet. Guys, got any last thoughts on Utes before we head on over to our next project?
Yeah.
Just one thing. You go ahead, Dozer.
All right, I'll go first. The
Yeah, you
the
go
next
for it.
thing I'll be paying with the Utes is on the they're doing a, I don't think it's an AMA, but they're doing some kind of um, powwow on Thursday, I believe, with that investor, the $7 million seed round investor. What I'm going to be paying attention to is where that money's coming from and who that is, because what matters to me is how deep are those pockets.
Mm.
$7 million is a lot, but it's not a ton of money. For what it seems like Utes is trying to build and what DeGods is trying to build, but there's more money than that in the pockets of the investors. Um, sort of that if things go well, that money would turn into a whole lot more very quick.
Yeah, I think I actually saw their post where they had a graphic with a whole bunch of. I didn't even know that these groups were venture capitalists that invested. And like, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw like Big Brain Ventures on there, Hyperspace. I can't even remember the other ones, but there were quite a few different investors on there for that seed round. The other comment I wanted to make was this really funny statistic that I saw was that there were more applications for less spots for Utes than there were to get into Harvard this year. And I thought that was crazy. What a paradigm shift in this ecosystem. I just thought that was a really cool little addition to that.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I looked on Hello Moon. It looks like between wallets that had between 1 and 10 Sol. There's 150,000 of them, right around that for in the ecosystem. So it's pretty small right now. They got 70,000 applications. That means half the people who have funded wallets with over 1 Sol in them applied for this scholarship. So it was pretty, yeah, that was good. That was a good figure to see. I think we saw the same post, Paul. Some of the seed round funders, it is a conglomerate, so they raise this money from, it's a seed round. They got multiple venture capitalists to put stuff in. FTX Ventures is in there. Big Brain Holdings are in there. Magic Eden is in there, and that's just like, I think there's like 16 or 17 of them. So next week, you know what? We're not going to talk tubes or Utes next week. We're gonna talk something else. The third week in a row for us here.
Thankfully, they brought some hype back in the market for us, so hopefully we've got some big notable mints for next week.
Yeah. So next up, we're going to. Oh, there it is, right there. Sorry, before we move on over to it. It's chapter 1. Thanks, Paul, for sending that. Foundation Capital, Magic Eden, Hello Moon. Big Brain Holdings, Unlock, Metaplex, FTX Ventures, Jump, Jupiter, the popular aggregator, Hyperspace, Solana Ventures, Misty Labs, and Symbol. So that's a lot of hands in the pie, and I'm sure a lot of those folks are going to be looking at this team to really execute. And man, I know we could just pontificate on this pretty much all night, but we got to move on, guys. So our next project that we are talking about, or giving you the intel about, is Crowdsurf, which is not very well optimized for this this program here. Sorry about that, but it's crowdsurf.io.
There's a lot going on their website. Wow.
Yeah, it's not rendering correctly here, but basically, Paul, do you want to take this and tell everybody what's happening with Crowdsurf, even though that we talked about them before?
Yeah, so we definitely did talk about them before. They had their they had their earlier mint of the 888 Dead Surfers. I believe they're called Dead Surfers.
Yep.
And now they've got the mint of the remainder of their collection. I actually found this project pretty cool, and I was supposed to. I know that we're going to have a discussion with the founder on the Project Intel Twitter at one point. But essentially, this project, when you boil it down, rewards those diamond-handed investors. What I think is really cool about this project is they've got that Crowdsurf pledge portal, which essentially says, like, if you, Kris, or you, Dozer, have NFTs that you are bullish on, you're not going to sell them, you can pledge them to this Crowdsurf portal saying, I'm not going to sell these NFTs for this period of time, and it'll lock them up. And I believe it's non-custodial, so they will stay in your wallet. And then you earn a reputation, which is the Crowdsurf Investor Score, or CIS, which can benefit you in the future. So I see you've got your page up there, Kris, where you've locked up your pledges, and you are earning some of your Crowdsurf Investor Score, which is great. So yeah, I think this is really cool, and I think they can have some future applications. I honestly haven't followed along with this project as closely as I would have liked. So I don't know exactly if they have rolled in any applications, but the one really cool thing that I could see coming out of this is like a big whitelist meta shift again. So we've seen the scholarships coming from Dust Labs and DeGods, but another really interesting way would be to whitelist or reward those diamond hand investors who would have like a high CIS, or the Crowdsurf Investor Score. I think that would be a pretty interesting utility of this platform. And I apologize if I'm not doing this platform justice. I honestly have not followed along with it as closely as I would have liked. And I'm really excited to speak with the founders for more if we get a chance to do so.
Yeah, founder's name's Seb. I've talked to him as well. He's a great guy, really believes in the utility and of the project. He would like to come on the show. and talk about it. Why we're talking about it now, because they're minting batch 2. They minted the first one. They're minting batch 2 on September 9th. One of the really cool things here, and I'm going to try to, it's not active now. I think they deactivated this, but when for their mints, if you, here's one of the utilities, is as they bring projects on, they have a new meta. So the whitelist meta is that you can prepay, if you're a crowdsurfer and have a particular CIS score, you can prepay for your mint, and it will get airdropped from the candy machine, instead of you having to fight to press that mint button and deal with server issues. So there's a little spot here that's not active anymore, but they opened up prepays for the first 600 for their batch 2 crowd surfers at 1.6 Sol. The mint price is 2 Sol. But you could also pay that 2 Sol if you're in the Pledge Surfer portal and have pledges going on, which basically eliminates the need and the need of FOMO to like be at your computer at a certain time to make sure that you can go ahead and get a mint. So their beta, as we just saw here, is starting out with their own project for their second batch, and I believe that they are onboarding other communities to be a part of this prepay. So once a project gets on there, you don't have to worry about the white list. It's really interesting. The portal's put together really well. I'm waiting to see these leaderboard and whitelist things come out. It's still in beta. I'm waiting to see what happens in the next 14 days after these pledges. We talked about it. I had to try it out for you guys to make sure that these pledges are what happens to them, and then what happens to the score, and then what kind of benefits that gives me. So September 9th, 2 Sol. I am not actually sure where they are minting at. My guess, no, it's going to be on Magic Eden. The first one was on Magic Eden, so the second one will be on Magic Eden.
Yeah, that's correct.
Kris, I'll add one thing.
Yeah.
When I see tools like this, I always think, my first thought is, how can somebody exploit it? How will people take this tool and create personal gain for themselves in an unfair way? Because it happens. I mean, if you create something like this, any project that everyone's not on an even playing field, people will exploit it if there's money to be made. One of the first things that they say in their Git book here is what can I pledge, and it's NFTs obviously, but they limit it to 6 at any given time, which is good. That really helps level the playing field. The Sol Big Brains or the 9x9, those of the world aren't going to be able to come in and just completely run the show and pledge 1,000 NFTs that with total floor of 10,000 Sol, and then the average everyday investor wouldn't really have a chance against them, and they would lose in the ranking, in the leaderboards to them. But if you can only pledge up to 6 at any given time, I mean, it's pretty easy to get 6 NFTs. Obviously some are worth more than others, but 6 is not difficult to get to. Oh, you're muted, Kris, I think.
Yeah, so the exception to that is when, thanks Dozer, is if you pledge a Crowdsurf NFT, you get 2 additional spots, right? But I think as the way it looks, and we'll have to clarify this, is that you can only pledge up to 6 Crowdsurfer NFTs, which would give you 12 other NFTs. So it's a work in progress. It's in beta. It was worth talking about their second batch because it actually has a really good utility. Join their Discord, ask some questions, hit them up on Twitter. Do your own research. That's the best thing to do. Really quick, we got a couple more on here. Want to wrap it up right at the half-hour mark. Let's talk about Sports Club. What is Sports Club?
Yeah, sports club. So when you go to sports club, just go to their website. I think it's yeah, Chris, you have it pulled up there.
thesportsclub.io. Yeah,
The
thesportsclub.io.
sports club. And what they have are two types of games that you can play: paid games and free games. So you can go on there, and most of them are about different sports. Football, basketball's on there. What other games do they have on there? They have non-sports games. They had stuff about Utes, and you just place predictions for each of the games, whether it be like how's this team going to score versus the other team, or what player is going to play best on a team. Each game's a little bit different. You just have to click each one and take a look at it. And there's a prize for the person in each game that does the best, or there's a group of prizes for the top group of people that do the best. And it's a pretty simple, basic betting, but they're getting a lot of traffic because of their what they're offering to DAOs. So normally, these types of sports apps, they only offer betting in, like Solana or Layer One cryptos, but they offer 10 total spots to different communities for those communities to be allowed to use their native tokens. So like in the Sol Army's case, we are one of those 10 DAOs, and we have a site or a spot on their website where we can create and bet using our native token GV. And I think we don't have any running right now. One just ended a day or two ago, but they're it wasn't cheap to get that spot, so they're generating income from these DAOs for them to be able to offer the native token, and they have a lot of traffic. If you go to their Discord, it's really there's a lot of people in there. There's a mint coming up, which I don't know a whole lot about what the mint is going to do, but the website is fully functional. I'm sure it'll be tied in somehow. We'll hear more about that, but the website itself is neat.
Yeah, I've seen some of the NFTs. Be interesting to see how they promote those. You're right, Dozer. Their Discord is on fire all the time. I mean, people love to gamble, and this is a kind of, I don't want to say innocent way, but I mean it's a good way to play like some free games. You might be able to get and it's basically predictions. You just fill out a list. They give you prompts. What do you think this versus that? And depending on how good of a fortune teller you are, you might get a reward for that. So it's not just a dead end utility. It's not just a dead end utility, and they're gonna grow. I mean, hands down, they're gonna grow. They're gonna mint early September. Looking right now for any specific dates on that. I see a lot of tournaments, but I don't. Yeah, it just says early September. So we wanted to cover them here before next week in case they decide to go for it. And then the very last thing that we wanted to just chat about, and then I really wanted to get in and talk about some token prices. Because we've seen some token prices do some pretty wild things over the last couple days, but it doesn't look like we're going to have time to cover it on this episode of NFT Intel. But let's talk about Solswipe really quick. We did talk about them before, but they ended up having a mint that kind of failed, and so they're back minting next week. Any thoughts on this one, Paul?
I don't know. They didn't exactly have a mint that kind of failed. I know they just had to postpone their mint because they were not able to mint on Magic Eden due to a reason which
yeah, that's right.
I guess we don't really have to go into. We did cover this one in the past. I mean, overall, it is a pretty neat concept. I do have my reservations about it. I mean, my primary reservation about it is the fees for this are very, very, very high in the grand scheme of credit or debit card use. I mean, I guess the redeeming quality or the advantage that people would really like to see from this is that it would be a decentralized way to spend your funds. Um, to my knowledge, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe that you have to KYC, which kind of defeats the purpose of that decentralized way of spending your funds anonymously. Um, I do think it's a very cool concept overall. And I mean, we do have to make some steps and strides towards bringing this sort of infrastructure into the space. It would really be nice to see a reduction in fees, especially over time. But I do understand from a business standpoint that a company like this does have to raise capital one way or another. And it seems like the way they're doing that is through that card initiation fee as well as the transaction and load fees. I know you guys had some other opinions about it as well in the past. And yeah, I believe we have a recording if people want to go back and see what we said about it the first time. I don't think too much has changed.
Yeah, but they did. The thing that I know that has changed is that they have now presented their partnership bank that they're working with. Like they were under NDA previously, but I think that they've got all their I's dotted and T's crossed. And also, again, like this week now I'm talking about it, like, I don't know if this makes sense at the current market level. You know what I mean? Like, timing is kind of everything, and I think that maybe when Sol is at $250, this actually might have been something that people could see being useful. But Sol is now at like $32, right around there today, and I know a lot of people in the ecosystem are hurting for liquidity. So while I think that it's not a new concept. I mean, they're not reinventing the wheel here. I mean, it's a debit. You sell your crypto for fiat. It gets put on your card, and you go ahead and spend your card. But you're right. We have I think 3 weeks ago, episode number 4, I believe, 4 or 5, we talked about the Solswipe project. Also, again, check their Discord. With all of these projects that we talk about, this is not financial advice. You're going to want to do your own research. But we do appreciate you stopping by and listening to us ramble sometimes about things that we really like to see and like to talk about, because that's what we do all day here. Was that Dozer?
All day, every day.
All day.
Said we only ramble sometimes.
Yeah, all day, every day. Any parting thoughts? We're gonna have to wrap up here. We're a little bit over time. So Dozer, we'll go with you. Parting thoughts.
For all of these projects, go check out their Discords. That's a really good way to gauge the sentiment, the overall community sentiment for those projects. Just go chat, talk to their teams. That's the best way. Go ask them very specific questions. They'll answer you. That's really the best way to get information. Sometimes you can get some, not insider information, but some information that isn't necessarily released on their, white papers or things like that.
That's good advice. Paul, what do you got?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground today. I'm really happy that it seems like the market's heating up for now. Hopefully there's nothing that kills the momentum, and I know we've got a lot of really bullish things ahead, so I'm excited to bring everyone some more notable mints every week.
Okay. Sounds good. And from me, make sure you download that Exodus Web3 wallet. You got Sol, Ethereum, and Algorand in one place. I hooked up Mercury today, and I didn't have to leave my same wallet. I hooked up ETH and Sol through Mercury with the Exodus Web3 wallet. So on that note, guys, we'll see you next Monday. I said guys, I meant everybody, because we're not all guys that just in this Sol ecosystem. And with that,